Hello and welcome to the vlog, which you've probably guessed already is about how you get TV on a boat. It's a vlog I've been meaning to make for about a year, and in fact even when I was at Yelvertoft Marina last winter I went so far as to film various boats, TV aerials, satellite dishes and so on and so forth, but somehow I never got round to making the vlog. However, I've had some recent queries about how you get telly on a boat, so I've decided the time is right and this is that vlog. First of all then, this is my TV set. It's an absolutely bog standard, off the shelf, 19-inch Toshiba unit. It's got a little DVD player in the side of it, and to be honest, it's not a very good telly. I would really like to replace it with a nice 22-inch Samsung, but that costs money, and I'm very tight-fisted. This particular set is mains powered. You can see the lead disappears off there down a hole into the cupboard below. You can get 12-volt tellies for caravans, campervans and boats, but the ones I've seen, frankly, are not very good. Also there you can see the aerial lead, which again disappears down that hole. Weirdly, when I got the boat, the aerial cable came into the cupboard from outside, but not up to where you'd put the telly. The prior owners apparently watched the TV with it in the cupboard, so to watch sensibly, I had to leave the door open and run the wire up. That was nonsense, of course, so I fixed it with a new hole behind the telly and rerouted the cables. Ignoring the CDs and DVDs for a moment, if you follow the wires down, you see the TV aerial ends up in that little booster unit there, which is also mains powered, and so both the booster unit and the telly end up on that socket over there. Obviously, being mains powered, I do have to run the inverter to run the telly, but I'm not overly worried about that. It doesn't draw a huge amount of power. 45 watts is about 5 amps. In the summer, the solar is more than capable of powering that, and in the winter I'm on a shoreline, so no problem with the power consumption. The Samsung telly I've got my eye on is actually only about 26 watts, so it would use less battery power if that was an issue. That's the telly then, and as you can see, I don't have a satellite decoder box or anything like that. You can get them, and I'll come back to that in a second, and I will also mention video streaming from the internet. But for the moment, let's just pop outside, and I'll show you how I pick up the TV signal. And that is really very easy. It's what we in technical circles like to call an aerial on a stick. The aerial pole is telescopic, as you can see, and the different sections just hold together with these little plastic nuts. And I've bolted it to the cratchboard using one bracket at the top and another little bracket at the bottom. Those brackets just came off eBay. The pole itself was bought from a motorhome supplies shop, and I think it's made out of aluminium. The aerial, by the way, is just a standard short domestic TV aerial, but due to the way it's designed, it does need to point in the right direction of the transmitter. You don't have to use a normal telly aerial, although they are the best, but they need pointing in the right direction, which I'll come to in a minute. For something more discreet, and which picks up signals from all around it, many boaters have one of these. I had one when I bought my boat, but it just didn't work in bad signal areas, so I ditched it. I did have some success, oddly enough, with this tiny antenna, a review of which is on one of my other channels, but it's still roundly beaten by a proper aerial on a pole, although that has to be dealt with when you move off. So when I'm about to go out cruising, I unscrew each of the little plastic knobs, collapse the telescopic pole so it comes to about here, that's so it doesn't get ripped off as I go under any bridges or tunnels, things like that, and that's pretty much it. When I get to a new location, put the aerial up again, and then you've got the slight issue of finding out which way it should point for the right transmitter. How do you do that? Well, the locations of the transmitters are well documented. You just need to go online and look up where your nearest TV transmitter is. Then you need to work out where you are in relation to that transmitter, and more specifically, which way your boat is pointing. So if your boat is pointing north-south, say, and the transmitter is over here, then your aerial needs to be pointing over that direction, and if the transmitter's over here or down here, it needs to be pointing that direction. So having worked out where you are and which way you're pointing, you just need to then go outside and turn your aerial round until the aerial is pointing towards the transmitter. It does not have to be accurate, it just needs to be pointing in pretty much the right sort of direction. Bear in mind that for any aerial system, obstructions, such as any high ground around your boat, trees, buildings and so on, will obstruct good reception, and that can also be true for satellite signals. The lead from the aerial just comes down and into the boat through this socket. I later discovered this was partly to blame for my poor signal, as the connector going into the boat had a dodgy connection inside, so I had to pull it apart and remake the joints. Bear in mind that as you go from region to region and therefore transmitter to transmitter, you're going to have to retune your telly, because it'll need to pick up the list of channels from whichever transmitter you've just moved to. Obviously, if you move a little way and you're still pointing at the same aerial, that won't be a problem. But if you move a substantial distance, you're going to have to go through this setup process and make it scan all the channels again, which can take a few minutes and is quite dull. But once you've done it, you're then sorted for that transmitter for as long as you're in range of it. So far, so good then. That is Freeview taken care of. But what if you want to watch FreeSat, for example, or Sky? Well, it's pretty much the same, except you're going to need a satellite dish on your roof. Doesn't need to be mounted on a big pole. It can be mounted just on the roof, fairly flush. And every time you moor up, you're going to have to turn the dish around so that it is pointing at the satellite as well. You can get motorised ones that will automatically scan the heavens, find the satellite and lock onto it. And I imagine actually that after you've tried doing it manually a few times, you're probably going to want to invest in one of those automatic ones. I think they can be quite expensive. But once it's locked on and working, it's just like a normal TV system you'd have in your house. You pay your Sky subscription for whatever channels you want, and you point the dish at the satellite, bingo, Bob's your uncle. The only thing you need to be aware of, if you are running on batteries, this is particularly relevant, is of course you're now not only running the TV set, but also the decoder box, so there's a bit of an extra draw on the power front. The final thing to mention is if you fancy streaming, you can get things like the Google Chromecast and the Amazon Fire Stick, and I think there are others as well. And again, a bit like a domestic system, you plug them in the back of your telly. As long as you've got Wi-Fi over the 4G network or something like that, then you can receive an internet signal. The Chromecast picks up the Wi-Fi. You have to do a bit of fiddling around initially to tune the Chromecast device to your Wi-Fi and from there over to the internet. But once you've done that once, then you can stream, and it can be Netflix or Now TV or YouTube, whatever you want to stream, and you can sit back and watch it on the telly instead of watching it on your phone or your tablet. And that pretty much, I think, covers how you get TV on a boat. Any questions, drop them down below. I should add, I've never actually used a satellite system on a boat, so I can't really answer many questions on that. But any questions, any suggestions, drop them down below. All gratefully received, and any queries I will do my best to answer. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.